expert. The amount of faith that we're asked in our country today, in our republic, to place in government experts is appalling. We're asked in many instances to say, look, these are the jurists, these men and women in black robes. They are the all-wise sages, like living oracles who can tell us what our law says. And if that means they're taking debatable matters, not even mentioned in the Constitution, beyond debate, so be it, because they are the experts. That is the progressive vision. That is the progressive dream, but it's our nightmare as lovers of liberty. That's one of the many reasons why we have to refocus on what government is in general, what the federal government is in particular, and within that federal government, who does what within the federal structure. What we know is that they're not supposed to be making laws if they're wearing black robes.
Got one last question for you. And by the way, this is an unbelievable book, written out of history by the conscience of the Senate. That's what you are, as far as I'm concerned. The Forgotten Founders Who Fought Big Government. You can get it anywhere right now. It is doing superbly well because it's a great book. You're a great senator. Here's my question to you, my final question. How's President Trump doing overall?
Look, I think he's doing well. I think he has a strong desire to drain the swamp, and I think he's doing what he can so far to get us there. I think he's given us Judge Neil Gorsuch, now Justice Neil Gorsuch, who is going to fulfill, I think, the legacy and the promise of the Nino Scalia mission on the court, which is to make the court more about interpreting laws than making them. I think President Trump has signed into law now 13 resolutions of disapproval passed by Congress that undo late-breaking Obama-era regulations. That's 13 times the number of regulations that had been invalidated that way by a combination of congressional and presidential action. I applaud him for that. I applaud him for getting us out of the Paris Accord. This was a bad deal for the American people, where they were asked to put tens of billions of dollars into an international fund to be managed by sort of international bureaucrats who have no accountability to the American people. I applaud him for wanting and promising from day one, the moment he was sworn into office. I remember there was a line in his speech that gave me great comfort. He said, "Today, the shift of power is about much more than the transfer from one presidential administration to another, the transfer of power from one party to another. This is about a shift in power from Washington, D.C. back to the American people." The fact that he's got that vision, the fact that he's been fighting for that vision, the fact that he's sticking to that vision so far, from what I can tell, is to be applauded. And I'm very grateful that he's willing to do that, and I'm going to do everything I can to help him in that
I agree with you. And we both supported Ted Cruz in the Republican primary process. But you know, as I supported him in the general election, he's doing exactly what he said he would try and do. You know, 80% of it is solid conservative, 20% of it is not. And he's fighting on all fronts. But what's troubling me right now, to the extent you can comment on this, is the effort to destroy his presidency. I mean, we have a special counsel who's already expanding his power. We have these constant attacks, about impeachment and so forth. People accusing him of obstruction of justice who don't even understand what obstruction of justice is. It's just me speaking, and I'm looking, I said, I worked for Reagan for 8 years. I lived through the Nixon years. I was a young man. There were some very, very bad times. I don't remember anything like this, and I certainly don't remember it in the first 4 months of a presidency. What is your thoughts on that?
The fact that there is this much of an effort this early in an administration, before many things have even transpired, should itself be alarming to us. It should be a wake-up call for us to realize we've got too many eggs in the basket that is the federal government. When there's that much at stake, that the Democratic Party and the progressive movement will materialize in the way they have, building off of the thinnest evidentiary foundation to try to build a case against him, we should all be concerned. It's one of the many reasons why we should follow President Trump in draining the swamp, follow President Trump's admonition that we transfer power from Washington, D.C. back to the American people. The attacks against him are Exhibit A for why we need to do that. Exhibit A for why we need to drain the swamp and push the power back where it belongs, which is back to the people.
So in other words, what you're saying, any challenge to this power, to this Leviathan that they've created, they react with such ferocity. Isn't that what's going on?
Yes,
That's
exactly.
your point?
They react with such ferocity. These are the same people, or it's the same kind of thinking that has written these people out of history. The people in my book were written out because they warned against big government. Donald Trump has been warning against big government and talking about shifting the power back. This thing is almost an organic entity. It's almost an entity in and of itself. It wants to preserve itself. And so that's what it looks like when you try to drain the swamp. People push back. We've got to push back harder.
Written out of history, the forgotten founders who fought big government. Senator Mike Lee, it is a great honor. Thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.